Hey everybody, welcome back to Gun Totin' Minnesotan. My name is Andrew, and today I have the privilege and honor of showing you a really cool product that I think has the potential to change your group shooting, your target shooting, your zeroing, preparing hunting rifles, preparing precision rifles, competition use. I can just see so many applications for this, from rimfire to centerfire to even air guns as well, pneumatics, some stuff I use and will show on the channel at a later time. This is the Alacritas Fortis. Now, Alacritas did send this out to the channel, and thank you to Alacritas for the chance to try this out. As far as I'm aware, there haven't been many people who have had the chance to try this out yet in my area, but I'm confident this is going to gain steam quickly because it's a very high quality product. I'll begin this review by talking about some of the stats about this product. First of all, the rest bags and the rifle stock bag rider sizes come in 3 different options. There is the standard, which is what you're seeing here on the channel today, and that'll accommodate stocks and bag riders up to 25 millimeters. And if you want to, you could request a custom, and the customs are like a wide option, which will fit up to 30 millimeter bag riders, which is quite large. And then you have a narrow option if that's something you want. It'll fit the long shot precision adjustable bag rider, which is a .850 base, the ELR model. You could custom order those as well. Just needs like an extra week lead time on your order. And then you can select the friction type you want for bags with those custom orders too. Some other advertised benefits of this is that it's ultra lightweight compared to a conventional sandbag. They say 160% less weight than a sandbag, which I totally could agree with. That makes a lot of sense. It keeps rifles firm and secure to ensure the utmost accuracy and precision, which I'm going to agree with too. It has a grip texture on the feet to ensure that the contact between any surface, there's not marring, but there's also not movement. And I found that to be 100% true. Even on that wood surface I was shooting there in the video with snow on it, those rubber feet work really well. It has micro adjustment. It's about approximately 10 millimeters of micro adjustment in just the Mariner's wheel, that fine adjustment there. Then you have larger adjustment, of course, in your center axis, or that hinge in the middle. The Fortis is extremely compact and portable. The Fortis is modular, and so new innovations that they come up with easily add on or can be changed out. The ears use hook and loop fastening systems, so they can't be removed easily or accidentally. And the last thing that I'll mention is that it does come with a hard shell case with some padding inside if you want to carry it that way. Now I'll probably just roll in some different clips of using the product with different rifles over the last month or so, and then I'll wrap up telling you what I think about it. This is not going to be the last video. You will see a lot more of this very soon. Shooting out of the Fortis with the Telson Optics 3-18 Toxin at 330 yards. Just getting some initial information and experience on the products here, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have positive impacts because I do know my data. And this thing rocks. That's part of it. This rest is so steady, so should be able to trust this just fine and move on to some smaller targets even in that wind. Yeah, forgot to hold for wind on that one. We are way too close, and it is going to be far too easy with the setup I have right now at 330 yards. That's just nothing. Even on that 2/3 size IDPA, that's a giant target. This close, even with wind and average ammo, it's a big target. If you need something to upgrade your rifles or maybe your precision instruments, you need some tools, you need a good website to go to, I'm going to recommend Anarchy Outdoors. I like Anarchy Outdoors a lot. I have a lot of aftermarket parts from Anarchy Outdoors, and they just do a really good job of in-house products and then other products they bring in from other places and getting you the best prices. So highly recommend them. Check them out if you haven't already. All my CZ videos and Ruger videos usually have a link to Anarchy. One thing I will say that is sort of unique about the Alacritas here is that the recoil impulse is going to be a little different. Let me get out of the way for the light here. It's going to be a little different than I think you're used to with a bag, a normal bag, like a squeeze bag. It's probably the unpredictability of a squeeze bag in general is a little bit higher. You know, it can move around and do different things, and this just doesn't move much. And so I'm going to say it did take some getting used to because the rifle is in grass with a bipod. So it moves a little bit. It rises just a little bit because of the actual, 308 has enough energy there to flip the barrel a little. And then you have this bag rider on my rifle is sitting perfectly in the cushions on the Alacritas, and it does have its own unique signature for recoil each time. So it's just something I'm figuring out, learning a little bit, and I would say it's pretty predictable once you figure it out. Now I want to tell you about one of my favorite applications for the Alacritas Fortis. And by the way, if you do buy this, it comes in a hard shell case. I think that's really cool. The hard shell case does have inside of it this like high quality, I don't know if it's stainless steel or aluminum. It just feels really high quality. Has their business card in here. It's a QR code to get you more information once you purchase it. And I'm just going to tell you, everything they do is really high quality. There is not a single thing from their website to their products to even their business card that is low quality. Everything they do has a touch of, I would say, borderline elegance to it. It is so well done. The machining, the fit and finish on this, absolutely superb. And I think they probably could charge more for this if they wanted to, just based off the fact that everything is done so incredibly well. Very neatly put together, but that aside, yes, it comes with a hard shell case. And if you want to reduce the footprint, you're not carrying this in a bag with your camera gear like I am, well, then you could just carry this and it's smaller and a little bit lighter. I don't mind carrying the case around though, so that I can actually protect my other gear, because this is a pretty serious mount and it does have a couple edges on it that maybe would snag some of my cameras. But aside from that, let's talk about the actual product now and what you're looking at here in front of me. This is one of my competition CZ457s. And when I say competition, I do like precision 22 comps. I don't win. I am not nationally known. Don't think any thoughts like that. But I do like to compete. I do take it pretty seriously. And one thing that is a big deal to me is actually zeroing the rifle and then shooting for groups and knowing, having absolute confidence what types of ammo are performing the best. So I do my best to reduce variables. One thing that I do is I shoot on windless days in even lighting conditions. And that's the only time I take my data really seriously. So no wind, not extreme temperature fluctuations, pretty standard temperatures that I will be shooting in. I take that information and I try to shoot the best that I can. I usually shoot on, I would say, something like 20 power, and I don't go above that very often in real application shooting, so I don't go above that when I'm shooting for best groups. I try to get as many controls in place as I can to keep it consistent. One thing that I have struggled with is actually rear support. Especially when it comes to rimfire, you know that this is borderline black magic. There are so many weird things that happen, whether that's cold bore, first round pop out of a threaded barrel with a can on, temperature increase, warming, thickness of barrels, resonance, the chassis, torque settings for your action screws. There is so much. I just touched on a couple things. There's so much that goes on there. And what I need to do is reduce the amount of influences that I have on the rifle. One way I can do that is by using the Fortis. In fact, I have to great success. This is my favorite rear support I've ever used, especially for rimfire. With bags, think about all the variety of different media that bags are filled with, the designs that they have, and the way that you use them or might use them depending on the temperature, how slick it is, how high your bipod. There's so many things. I'm not even going to get into it. Not to mention the benches I shoot off of, whether they're wood, whether I'm shooting off the ground. There's so many variables. And that changes sometimes your face pressure, your shoulder pressure, the way you pull the trigger. And now you have a zero that's set to a certain condition, and you may not see that zero be consistent when shooting from other positions. Because I shoot this somewhat free recoiled very often when I'm shooting competitions and it's laying on a barrier or maybe a barricade of some sort, I want to be not influencing this a lot. I have my cheek piece down a little bit so that I'm not putting much cheek pressure on there. I don't need to put a lot of resistance on the end because this weighs, I don't know, something like 18, 19 pounds. So what I like about the Fortis is I can set this in, and it does fit even with these very large size MDT spacers. These are a little bit thick, they're a little bit wide. I wasn't sure how that would work. And as you can see, this doesn't actually have a bag rider installed on it. The chassis portion is just fine, and this is what I thought would be a little tighter, but it fits right in. And one of the things that's excellent about this rest is now when I shoot for groups, all I have to do is set it up to how I'm comfortable to approach the gun, to get up on it, get on the trigger, and I can use this micro adjustment in the rear to get the butt of the rifle or the angle right where I need it to be. A couple things about this that are phenomenal is when I take my bolt out of the rifle, if I do drop down that cheek piece, now when I'm zeroing the rifle, I can look through the barrel and put it on a target and then adjust my scope down to my reticle itself, down to that target, and I can eyeball this within an inch or so when I zero stuff. And for my channel, I'm zeroing optics all the time, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. I'll be zeroing an optic. So I have an extremely precise, consistent, which is the key word, rest for the rear of the rifle, and I'm not putting a bunch of extra unnecessary or damaging influence into the rifle while shooting or zeroing. And I find that this produces the best groups I've ever seen, and I'm really happy that I have one of these in hand, particularly for rimfire and air gun. So I don't have some sort of false sense of immunity to the weather conditions or the wind. I just need to make sure to get some B-roll today and show you setting up and what it looks like in the prone position with a regular stock that doesn't have a bag rider. It's very cold, it's very windy. Don't be too surprised if I don't show you a lot of groups when it's sub-zero out, because ammo doesn't perform particularly well in sub-zero conditions. The closer we get to spring and summer, the better reliability I'll be able to show you for just groups in general with less flyers and, basically just more comfort for the shooter as well. I don't have as many layers on and all that. But how you're looking at it right now is probably how I'd have it set up for shooting off of the bench. You can see that at the table I'm sitting at right now, this isn't terribly different than I would be if I was to kind of lean forward and lean into a bench about the right height, somewhere in there for me. But I actually shoot on the prone or out of the prone very often. And in that case, I tend to raise this a little bit. And now we have a negative angle. And if I have snow, which I very often do, have a lot of snow to work around, and you can't just shovel down to grass, especially when it's ice, now I have a very negative angle. That's a lot of movement to make with just the micro adjustment, but that's not a problem for this rest. This rest having a gross function or a major function for adjustment means that I can get this rest up to about that height and adjust the angle if I need to, just a little bit, and then crank on it. It doesn't have to be really, really tight, but I just give it one twist like that. From there, now I can adjust the rear, and I always try to leave a little gap in the rear just in case I need to go down or up. I always try to have it actuated just a tiny bit. Now I can actually adjust this to get it right where I think would be level for my shooting experience that day. And if I'm in the snow and my body is maybe sitting on the snow, but these components tend to sink down, I have the extra necessary height to be able to see and shoot over the snow with no problems at all. One more time, something that a rear support bag does not do well, does not do consistently, and I still have all that motor function issue. Let me explain what I mean about the muscle or motor function issue. So when this bag is set up, and I'm using my muscles to try to get the right height. What I'm gonna do, and this is a high quality bag, it's a great bag. I shoot using pretty much just this one for PRS. It's an Armageddon gear. Can do a lot with it, and it works pretty good on the fly as a rear support bag. When I'm shooting a competition and you're shooting a 1 MOA size target, you know, you're gonna hit it for sure with this bag, and the little variants that I might have, it's fine. But the targets, again, are a little bigger. When you're shooting those competitions, it's not like you're shooting for groups. And when I'm shooting for groups, the problem with using this rear support bag is this movement to get this level and where I think it ought to be is dependent on the bag staying where it should, my muscles not fatiguing, which after 30, 40 shots, if you're really going through a lot and testing, yeah, your muscles start to fatigue. And you have other fatigue, you have eye fatigue going on sometimes. So I want to reduce as many variables as possible, and shooting off of this bag, well, it's got some variables. The media that's inside is an ultralight type fill, and I use a heavy fill and an ultralight fill, and I have the same problem with both of them. They tend to move just a little bit after 10, 15 shots, 30 shots. They tend to move a little bit, and this is a heavy rifle. So the amount of influence I have here is probably more than I want. And when you compare this, yes, it's versatile in the sense that I can move it around, but now I have to navigate it every time to get it just right by squeezing the bag and actuating the bag and turning it around and getting some sort of way that works really good for the targets I'm shooting at. If I'm actually shooting for groups, I'm shooting long range, I'm shooting for consistency to test lots of ammo, I just don't want to use this because it introduces too many variables, even though I like the bag a lot. I'm a big fan. There's no shade thrown at all. I'm just saying this is a superior product. It's a superior idea for bench shooting, prone shooting, where serious target consistency is the need, where you need to be holding the same spot repeatedly, and you need fine adjustments to keep it in the same window, but you don't want it to be reliant on your own muscles, which again might be fatigued by the end of a day. A quick zoom in on some of the features. Rubberized feet. This is like a rubberized band with multi-directional grips. So each panel that you're seeing here actually has grips that are going a different direction. That's to resist movement on surfaces like this. It actually is moving my whole table when I try to just go back a little bit. It is very, very grippy. And this post that runs through on both sides is held in with some hardware. It's tightened, clamped in, and attached to your frame. Inside the center axis, this is your main function for large movements. If you needed to adjust all the way down, or you want to adjust angle, you adjust this. And it is capable, let me build it up again for a second. It is capable of doing this. I can pull out on it and move it over. So if I'm in a position where I can't do a 360 with it, I can do a 180, pull it out, go back. Very similar to how a lot of bipods operate, if you've seen that before. This is a part that is just masterfully done. This wheel is a control wheel. It's a micro control. You can see the lift I'm getting on the pillars. There are 4 pillars. And there, I'm going to try to go a little taller so you can actually see inside what's going on. Now this is all good quality, sturdy materials. Everything you're seeing on top. And inside that center post, that's the part that's actually doing the rest of the work. This is keeping everything from being too easily moved around. You want it to be fixed in position. And the tolerances between this block and these posts are going to matter. If you understand how this product is designed, it matters a lot that there's no wiggle or flop in there once this is set. And I'm going to say there's a minimal, very, very minimal amount of movement. It's not enough that I think I'll even see it in my reticle, and I'm going far beyond a micro adjustment. Typically, what you want to do is get as much adjustment as is possible out of the large dial here. And when you have that set and you have just a tiny bit left, then you want to make your adjustments with this, because you want this piece as close as possible down here. You want to make very small amounts of adjustment. And I always try to keep it So I have a little room to go down and a little room to go up just in case. And one more look at those Velcro bags. You can see that there's Velcro on two sides, hook and loop, two separate parts inside. And it's very effective. It's actually quite hard to get off, which is exactly what I would expect. I want it to be difficult to come off. I don't want this to ever come off accidentally, and I don't believe it's even possible to come off accidentally under recoil. Even if you have a tight fitting stock, it seems so unlikely that these would ever move laterally and shear off. They're just really well embedded. Personally, when I throw it in the case, I like to set it up with a loose neck, and I angle it down just a little bit. This is the way that it tends to fit the best. I lock it, and then the top can go over there, just like that. Super easy to carry and convenient in either the cased format or as the product by itself. This should be a fascinating little experiment. I have my 10-round magazine loaded up. I have that Summit Precision 9-inch carbon fiber barrel. I do have a can on the end of this Ruger Charger. I'm at 330 yards, and I think I can put my spotter up here so you can get some of the footage of hits. I am shooting a really thick target. There's like no way you'll hear it, but you might be able to see it if I use my spotting camera. And I'm going to try to use the Fortis on this little pistol setup. Very unique application. Never tried it, but if it can work here, it could probably work everywhere. And then I'll switch over to a more traditional rifle to try out more with the Fortis in a prone position, but it's actually looking pretty favorable so far. I think this is going to work. Well, surprisingly, that angle is going to work really good right there. The fun thing about this is it does have an adjustable angle to the neck. So if I can get out of the way here, you can actually see I have it angled backward, which is probably a little unique. You can't do that with a lot of rests, but it allows me to get it just right where I want it exactly. It's kind of holding it because it's right width diameter for the brace. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to throw some here at 330, and I will record it the best that I can. Okay, I will say that the barrel made it 800 rounds suppressed without like really falling off, and then being that it's pretty dirty ammo, I did have some fall off there, around 800 rounds suppressed. All I ever did in that 800 rounds was I took a little wipe, like not a wet wipe, a dry wipe, and wiped the inside of the chamber, and I put a drop of lube on the bolt. Whether that helps or not, I don't know, but I did put some on there around 800 rounds, and suppressed 22 is just so dirty, and this is no different. So I'm not too surprised that I had to run the bore snake through once. We'll see what that does. I'm actually going to shoot on a clay now, see what happens with that. All right, let's go for that clay a few times. Now I clean the barrel and see what happens. Should be able to get close. Oh man, wow. So the nice thing about shooting off a rest like this, first of all, is I can kind of like keep the same angle the whole time, and so when it recoils, it doesn't really lose its footing. I have this bipod in the grass, it stays where it should, and then this on the back here, these rubber feet aren't going to bounce around or move. It's very grippy on the mat actually, and my brace, switch what that is, my brace stayed right where it was. So that was a fun little experiment. I can't believe how consistent this barrel actually is. You have to remember, it's windy. Look at that flag. Okay, it's fairly windy. I'm shooting subsonic 22. It's probably right on the edge of subsonic. not properly subsonic really. But aside from that, I'm shooting a 9-inch carbon fiber barrel. Holy cats, guys, it's actually fairly repeatable. That's a somewhat, I would say it's like a 2-ish MOA size target if I'm shooting at that clay. And normally that'd be a very small target with a precision 22 anyways at 330 yards. But to get as close as I am with a 9-inch carbon fiber barreled 22 pistol, I am blown away. That's very acceptable, absolutely. Now you notice something, I did need to clean it. After 800 rounds suppressed, I think that's beyond what most people are gonna do. You should clean your barrels, treat them right. I just wanted to do that to see where is that drop off, and I would say it was around 700 to 800. I noticed, accuracy is not what it was, and that was probably more to do with the bolt face and how it was just so caked, absolutely caked full of powder and lead residue and everything else. Running a bore snake through is all I did, and then I took a Q-tip and just touched up the bolt face really quickly off camera here. That's all I did. And we were back at it again. My standard deviations were back to more acceptable, and man, I think even with better ammo, I'll get better results. I'm so impressed. This is a nice little combo between the Fortis from Alacritas and the barrel here from Summit Precision. This thing is absolutely wicked. And of course, I had to have a capable optic and the Discovery 1-8, shooting on about 6 power. It's the most I usually shoot it around, 6 or 7. That does just fine. Enough elevation to get me out there. And if you're curious what I was using for elevation, that was 18.5, which is plenty. All right, guys, here's some 330 yard shooting on a 6-inch target. To finish things off, I want to remind you guys, head over to alacritasinnovations.com. That's where you can find out more about the Fortis series. You might be more interested in the ultralight version, which doesn't have quite as many features, but it is very, very light, also very compact, has some similarities and some differences as well. I personally really, really enjoy the micro adjust version. The micro adjustment version with the Mariner's wheel is precisely what I need to shoot precision. And I think it's a big deal to have something that's as rigid and strong, robust as this mechanism is when I'm trying to get the best groups possible. But I can imagine a scenario or a type of person who is more interested in the regular Fortis, the ultralight, or maybe just differences in some of the bags for the actual sliding and resistance. I could see somebody wanting something a little different, or maybe even needing a wider version. For me and my big riders, this works just fine. I don't have any that don't fit, but I have seen big riders that require a little bit wider, or maybe even it would do better with a slimmer kind if you have the ELR style bag rider. I could imagine that, so you need to check out their website to get exactly what you're looking for. But I'm going to tell you that this has changed the game for me. The reliability, the consistency versus using a squeeze bag of some sort is quite a bit, and I'm a really big fan. I can recommend this product absolutely above a rear support bag, especially if you're prone shooting for groups or targets, you're shooting at a bench. These are places where it's going to be far superior in my opinion, and this is not the last video. I definitely will have more videos coming out soon, so stay tuned to the channel. When I get back from SHOT Show, I'm going to show you some more shooting with this at long range.